Hello and welcome. Today I want to change something. For the past 6 years on this channel, I've been StickyBasket. Well, and sometimes Chloe. But recently I've had some challenges and I want to be Chloe, but the part of me that likes the pieces of StickyBasket that I've grown in recent years is being met with the internal distaste for my time in the service, and it's really kind of culminating in a very confusing feeling. But I think what I need to do is stop being StickyBasket and I want to keep making videos, but I just have to be myself. And it should be easy. But it's scary when you have to drop the mask that was supposed to defend you. But the thing is, that mask wasn't defending me. It was actually restraining me from being capable of actually engaging with the world in a meaningful way. Because if I constantly have to play a character that represents the best parts of me, I'm not able to share the parts of me that are still growing, even when I want to, because I always have to be the best parts of me. And that's not who Chloe is, but, well, StickyBasket is a very fun character for me, and I think it gets into everyone who says I need therapy, listen up. Here is a fun fact about me. I like to imagine villains. And those villains are just, you get feelings like anger and frustration, and if you just have someone to blame, and you don't want to put it on a real person, because if you put it on a real person, it's going to get in the way of whatever friendships you might be able to develop, or like cordial relations or whatever. And so in various positions, I would create imaginary beings to be like, God damn, it's always the customer. The customer is always the problem. And when it's the customer I'm talking to, oh, my manager is just such an ass. I can't do that for you. I'd love to let you shoplift. It's just against the rules. It's my manager. And giving the agency to someone else allows you to engage a little bit easier with the people who are in that shared experience. And for me, what's funny is I never actually would use it for real positions or anything. I would make up creatures in my mind, and those would be the villains, because at least then it's safe. And as long as everyone agrees that we can talk shit about this one villain and blame all the bad luck that we get on that villain, then when the good luck happens, we're all just happy to be there. And that's kind of what the goal always was. So StickyBasket was born out of that part of me. I wanted to show others in my life that making YouTube videos is not that difficult. All you gotta do, if you play games, screen record, say some stuff over it, upload. There's not a huge barrier to entry, and I know I've got a camera and some microphones and stuff, but even still, I love talking into a camera. Being here is one of my favorite experiences, because in this moment, I don't feel what I feel when I go to work and I have an idea and I get shot down because I'm not the ranking high-end person or senior technician or whatever reason I get shut down. Or when I go to a group and then, oh, well, we don't like you for this reason or that reason, or I mean, women, you know, when you say something and a man is in the room and they fucking have to process it until they get to the point where they can say what you told them back to you, and it's like, yeah, I guess you had a good idea after I had to fucking explain my idea to you, and you had to synthesize it into your own way of saying it that was a lot more convoluted and whatever. I'm not gonna judge men that aren't here. But the thing is, those experiences of not being heard, I find this location on talking to be freeing, because I remember a time in my life when people did listen to what I had to say. And what's funny is I rarely have things worth saying. I'm just gonna let that out of the bag. But that's the joy of hanging out in a place where you're kind of just forced to be there. At least, you know, have a good time, or try to have a good time. That's my outlook on it. And with life, that's one of the problems I've been having, is because things keep getting harder, and you think, oh, this will finally solve everything, and then all of a sudden, I reached a point where now my workaholism has reignited, and I find myself loving what I do. But the only reason I love what I do is because it's comfortable, and it's not the best of what I can do. But at that, which was at one point a frustration, now it's what I love about it. It's not that challenging, so I'm able to explore other areas, but I don't make enough from the job alone to sustain myself. And there are people in my shop who do make enough to sustain themselves, and I'm not saying I should get paid the same as them, but I see that gap, and then year over year, I see that compounding interest where the cost of living goes up 2%, and I get a 2% raise. And it doesn't change the fact that I'm $4 under the cost of living if all of a sudden now I'm $4.08 or whatever the math is on behind. You know, I'm running downhill and I'm trying not to land on my ass, but honestly, got about 3 months. And the last time I had 3 months before I had to find a job, I told myself I was gonna DoorDash, and that lasted all of like 3 days until I was like, I'm done DoorDashing and I need to find a real job. So now I have to find a real job, not lose my current job, and then try to manage school on top of it. And so when I'm thinking about all that, and I try to find where I can be the best, most confident version of myself and present how easy all of this is. It's not easy, but I'm not doing it because it's easy. I'm doing it because after I get a degree, when Matt Walsh talks, I can go, hey, shut the fuck up. What's interesting, and I'm not gonna get into it too much because it pisses me off, but he's doing a history show, and in a fucking interview, he talked about it, and he goes, well, you can only get into so much over a year. Yeah, if only we had a 4-year fucking college that could go over that with people and maybe teach people an in-depth history of the primary documents and like what's actually going on, instead of just conjecture about like statistical observations because you recognize that you can use economics and statistics to deprive people of their humanity because you reduce them to populations rather than individuals, while we live in a society that props up the individual. I don't want to get political. This isn't even supposed to be a political episode. I hate Matt Walsh, and if he were tried by firing squad, I know what I would be voting for the result on. If it were like one of those jury things that I got called for like my civic duty, and it's like, yeah, I believe he's a traitor to America. Because I believe America believes in revolution. You know how I know that? Because we had a fucking American Revolution. And I don't like talking about America in a patriotic sense, but I am not going to be told that my nation's a Christian nation and then be told that I'm anti-American for being a fucking revolutionary. And that clown, that bearded fucking ignoramus, yeah, God, I wish that I didn't learn about software-defined radio and get so intensely watching into the local, like, P25 networks that I would then start scanning in the 900 ranges for other modulation systems, thereby finding some fucking broadcast of a syndicated conservative who made me Google his name because he was saying some of the most heinous shit on the air. And I was like, how are people like this even allowed to survive and make a fucking living? And then you look at their YouTube and they're uploading fucking 30 times a day and getting like 200 views, 200 views, 200 views, and then they put like racist words in the title and all of it. You know? They got their blockbusters or whatever the fuck. It's just, I don't know, frustrating because they will argue that we have resources and our resources are from billionaires. And then meanwhile, every one of them works in a really nice fucking studio with high-end production and looks like an actual newscast. And it's like, you ought to really be careful about saying the billionaires are funding these riots when the billionaires are funding the people talking to the ones that look at the riots and go, I think the government's the one in the right here. Because I tell you what, people wouldn't be rioting if the fucking government did its job. Anyway, sorry, I'm not trying to get political, but I'm done being StickyBasket, and I just want to share that I fucking can't stand the way conservatives talk about trans people because they act as if I'm the villain while also acting as if my veteran status makes me some kind of hero, and in this exalted fucking medium, I have no position in their eyes because they go, well, you couldn't have served honorably. And then I go, well, I made first class in 5 years. And they go, well, it fucking must have been DEI. And it's like, that's not how the military works though. And then they go, well, you were kicked out for being trans. And it's like, well, I kind of got lucky though because fuck you, Matt Walsh. Anyway. Sorry. I spent so long in Bahrain being told they want to kill me out there. And then I came back to the US only to face conservative propaganda about trans people. And you know what? It wouldn't be so awful if that wasn't like the first experience I had with like getting in touch with my emotions and expressing myself. But it becomes really hard to fucking want to be who you are when that's what you're met with is, oh, that's who you are? We're gonna go ahead and take your job. We're gonna get rid of it. You're never gonna be able to do what you love. And by the way, you're gonna have this bearded ass clown talking on fucking TV, on the radio, everywhere about why you are a monster. And then you know what? I fucking had it. StickyBasket was born in my time, or in my life, at a time where I didn't need to stand up in any significant way, but I can't fucking handle it anymore because people like that need to be told to shut the fuck up because what they're doing is literally the worst kind of evil. And I stand by that. If there is a hell, there is a special place for it. People like Matt Walsh, people like fucking, I don't know, Tim Pool and the Edward Gregorian bunch, fucking Donald Trump especially, going straight to hell. But I'm not even a religious fucking person. I'm just done being StickyBasket. And I'm sorry that I can't be the best, most confident version of myself all the time, but I still love you. And thanks for letting me get that off my chest. I hope that I can stay here on this channel, but honestly, I love fucking with the algorithm on this channel, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, I'll fucking see you in the next one, maybe. Catch you later. Have a good one. Bye.